Hello YouTube, it's the Utopian Buddha. Today I want to talk about the power of spiritual practice, especially when a spiritual practice gains a life of its own, right? It gains a life of its own, and thereby, that's when a spiritual practice really becomes what it's supposed to be, or not supposed to be, but what it could be, right? Because when you stop, initially with most spiritual practices, it requires an effort of will to get into alignment with that spiritual practice. You do have to put some effort in. But eventually, the habit, it just becomes this, habit. And the habit of aligning yourself with a reality and force beyond yourself takes on a life of its own. So it's kind of like, by giving yourself up to the universal currents of reality, by subordinating your ego to a higher force beyond yourself, that higher self, which is the reality beyond the little self, starts taking over your life. So your spiritual practice gains a life of its own. Your spiritual practice gains a life of its own. And it takes time to do that. For me, really, and I had this insight yesterday as well. It really is all about bliss or pleasure, right? But it's the pleasure. Bliss is the highest form of pleasure, right? Because for me, at least, like the spiritual practice wouldn't really be worth it if it didn't get me a more, elevated. But the beauty of spiritual practice, right, is that you can elevate your consciousness. You can find peace and happiness while at the same time ennobling your character qualities, making yourself a more altruistic and ethical human being. Because, you don't have to make yourself that. It just happens naturally, right? So you don't have to make yourself anything. And you don't even have to try to be ethical. Trying to be ethical is like or trying to do the right thing. You don't have to use ethical. Trying to be a good human being should be natural. It shouldn't be like you're trying to force it, So I guess that's what I'm saying. All right, yep, that's a good one.